Beyond the glitter, the glam rock, and the alien transvestites lies an absolute treasure trove of Easter eggs and homages to classic Hollywood. Learn which actress had an affair with Prince Andrew, what inspired those iconic disembodied lips, and whose spouse made it into the flick. From sci-fi to horror, you're about to discover just how deep the rabbit hole goes as we reveal the ultimate guide to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I see you shiver with anticipation.
When the Rocky Horror Picture Show first hit mainstream cinemas in 1975, one problem: nobody came. Turns out, mainstream 1975 audiences weren't quite ready for a film about a sexually charged transvestite alien from outer space. But in New York City, niche films like Night of the Living Dead and Pink Flamingos had found counterculture audiences at midnight screenings. So in 1976, Rocky Horror was brought back to life as a midnight movie. Midnight viewers took the film's message of "Don't dream it, be it" to heart by dressing up as their favorite characters, acting out the film in front of the screen, shouting back at the film, and throwing props in the air, such as rice at the wedding scene. Rocky Horror's cult following transformed the 1975 flop into a cultural phenomenon, with the longest theatrical run in history, still playing in select cities to this day, over a half a century later. In the original stage production of the Rocky Horror Show, the iconic disembodied lips were nowhere to be seen. Instead, Patricia Quinn pulled double duty, not only playing Magenta, but also singing science fiction double feature as the Usherette, later known as Trixie. However, when the Rocky Horror Show became the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the Usherette was cast into the shadows, and with her, Patricia Quinn's singing voice for the opening. What remained? Only Quinn's disembodied feminine lips, bizarrely lip-syncing to the masculine voice of Richard O'Brien, the songwriter who also famously played Riff Raff. This audacious moment, a man's voice emerging from a woman's mouth, served as Rocky Horror's very first taste of the androgyny that would define its groundbreaking style. These unforgettable lips were likely inspired by Samuel Beckett's experimental 1973 play, Not I. Incredibly, this production, featuring nothing but disembodied lips, delivering dramatic dialogue, premiered at the Royal Court Theatre earlier the very same year, and in the very same theater where the Rocky Horror Show first took the stage.
In the merciful God, her first thought was, long after, sudden flash, she was being punished for her sins.
The iconic lips may also be a subtle homage to Man Ray's 1930s surrealist painting, À l'heure de l'observatoire, les amoureux, French for observatory time, the lovers, which famously features floating lips. Way ahead of its time, the Rocky Horror Picture Show premiered in 1975, only to find audiences utterly consumed by Steven Spielberg's blockbuster Jaws. Jaws was such a dominant force that year. One of Rocky Horror's original movie posters hilariously referenced the shark flick with the tagline, "A different set of Jaws." And speaking of sharks, it was none other than Playboy bunny Lorelei Shark who provided the luscious lips for that movie poster. Different set of pouting lips entirely from Patricia Quinn's on-screen. Now let's unlock the vault on the very sci-fi and horror films referenced in science fiction double feature that brought Rocky Horror to life.
Michael Rennie was ill the day.
Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still. The song kicks off with a nod to the 1951 classic, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Michael Rennie starred as an alien visitor who arrives with a powerful robot to deliver a critical message to humanity.
And Flash Gordon was there.
And Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. A shout out to the 1936 Flash Gordon serial films. These were multi-chapter adventures shown weekly in theaters, often alongside cartoons and newsreels. Interestingly, 5 years after Rocky Horror, Richard O'Brien, Riff Raff himself, went on to play Fico in the 1980 Flash Gordon feature film remake.
Claude Rains was the
Invisible Man. The Invisible Man was a 1933 Universal science fiction horror film in which Claude Rains plays Dr. Jack Griffin, who becomes invisible after experimenting with a formula.
Then something went wrong
for Fay Wray and King Kong. Fay Wray was the damsel in distress in the 1933 monster movie classic King Kong, a role that earned Fay Wray the title of the very first Scream Queen. Later during the song Don't Dream It, Be It, Frank-n-Furter gives an emotional shout out to his inspiration, Fay Wray.
Whatever happened
Whatever happened to Fay Wray?
Then at a deadly pace.
Then at a deadly pace, it came from outer space. This line refers to 1953's It Came from Outer Space, notable for being Universal International's first 3D feature film with stereophonic sound. Dr. X will build a creature. Here's where Rocky Horror takes some creative license. In the 1932 film Dr. X, Dr. X doesn't actually build a creature. Instead, Dr. Wells transforms himself into the Moon Killer using synthetic flesh. So brace yourself, Rocky Horror Live. Anne Francis stars in Forbidden Planet. This points to the 1956 sci-fi classic Forbidden Planet, which also notably starred Leslie Nielsen before his legendary comic career in films like Airplane.
I knew Leo G. Carroll was over a barrel.
I know Leo G. Carroll was over a barrel when Tarantula took to the hills. A nod to the 1955 film Tarantula, where Leo G. Carroll stars in a story about a miracle nutrient that causes a tarantula to grow to monstrous size.
When I saw Jeanette Scott fight
a trivet that spits poison and kills. This reference to the 1962 film The Day of the Triffids, featuring fictional walking plants with venomous stingers that kill and eat people. And it makes you wonder if those trivets ever made it to Mushnik's florist in Little Shop of Horrors.
Dana Andrews said prunes gave him the room.
Dana Andrews said prunes, gave him the runes, and passing them used lots of skills. This lyric contains a clever double entendre. Passing them refers to the laxative effect of prunes, indicating a bodily function. However, it also references Dana Andrews' character in the 1957 film Night of the Demon, desperately trying to pass the cursed runes back to the villain, Dr. Carswell, to save his life.
But when worlds collide,
said George Pal to his bride. The closing line references When Worlds Collide, produced in 1951 by George Pal. In this film, scientists race to build a relationship to evacuate a select group of humanity to another planet before a rogue star destroys Earth. Peter Shashitsky, the director of photography, went on to be responsible for the iconic cinematography of another huge hit, 1980's The Empire Strikes Back. Makeup artist Pierre Laroche not only was the genius behind Dr. Frank-n-Furter's signature makeup design, but also David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust and Aladdin Sane personas. Pierre went on tour with the Rolling Stones as the makeup artist for Mick Jagger, who expressed interest in playing Frank-n-Furter in the film. But ultimately, with a tight budget, the role went to the OG stage Frank-n-Furter, Tim Curry. Michael White, the producer of both the original Rocky Horror Show and the film version, had a banner year in 1975. In addition to releasing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, he also produced the classic comedy Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The film gets underway with the wedding of Ralph Hapschatt and Betty Monroe. Betty was played by Hilary LeBeau, who later became a familiar face to home design fans as a co-host of the HGTV show Love It or List It. Another wedding attendee, the bridesmaid, was played by Koo Stark. She became a tabloid fixture in the 1980s for her high-profile romance with Prince Andrew. Fun fact, Stark also had a role in the original Star Wars, but her scenes as Luke Skywalker's friend Kami were cut to keep the first part of the adventure focused on the droid's perspective. Susan Sarandon, who played Janet Weiss, went on to become a Hollywood powerhouse. She earned 5 Oscar nominations and took home the Academy Award for Best Actress for her work in Dead Man Walking. And as for Brad Majors, Barry Bostwick was already a stage veteran, originating the role of Danny Zuko in the Broadway production of Grease, a part that John Travolta would later make a household name on screen. Our twisted tale kicks off in the fictional town of Denton, Ohio. The original working title for the Rocky Horror Show was They Came from Denton High, a playful nod to the sci-fi classic It Came from Outer Space, which highlighted that our innocent protagonists, Brad and Janet, first crossed paths in Dr. Everett Scott's science class at Denton High School. Denton's story doesn't end there. It's also the setting for Shock Treatment, continuation of Brad and Janet's journey. While often deemed a flop, Shock Treatment was undeniably ahead of its time, foreshadowing the reality TV craze that would dominate the small screen decades later. While many veteran Rocky Horror cast members returned for Shock Treatment, playing entirely new roles, only Jeremy Newsom played the same role in both flicks. Ralph Hapshack, the groom in Rocky Horror's wedding scene. Creator Richard O'Brien himself described Shock Treatment not as a sequel, but as an equal to Rocky Horror, emphasizing its standalone vision. Although Barry Bostwick is not in Shock Treatment, the original Brad Majors from the original stage production is Christopher Malcolm. He played Vance Parker in Shock Treatment, and he also landed a role in The Empire Strikes Back. Here's a delightful hidden gem for art lovers and Rocky Horror aficionados alike. The very wedding guests, played by Richard O'Brien and Patricia Quinn, are a direct callback to Grant Wood's iconic 1930 oil painting, American Gothic. Dr. Frank-n-Furter must be a fan of the masterpiece because a copy of the painting is clearly visible, hanging in the castle during the opening of Time Warp. The artistic references don't stop there either. When Riff Raff and Magenta make their grand, space-suited return for the film's climax, ready to reclaim the castle, the laser gun Riff Raff holds sports 3 distinct prongs, a subtle, yet unmistakable, nod to the pitchfork held by the farmer in Wood's famous painting. The presence of actors playing both the mysterious Transylvanians and the seemingly mundane wedding guests, including Riff Raff, Magenta, Dr. Frank-n-Furter, and Columbia themselves, certainly begs an intriguing question. Are these the same characters in disguise? Scoping out Brad and Janet for Frank's wild schemes? Collecting body parts for Frank's ultimate creation, Rocky? Or simply a clever nod to classic filmmaking, with the actors playing dual roles, much like they did in Wizard of Oz? Speaking of the Wizard of Oz, the Rocky Horror Picture Show nearly leaned into that connection even harder. In the original movie script, the film's opening was entirely in black and white, just like Dorothy stepping into the vibrant land of Oz from plain black and white Kansas. The movie would have exploded into color the moment Brad and Janet plunged into the Transylvanian world. While this visual stunning idea was ultimately scrapped, there's a fascinating DVD extra that offers a glimpse of what this homage might have looked like. As the film cuts away from the Denton Episcopal Church, we're introduced to the criminologist, who narrates the bizarre events of the story. This character was inspired by real-life British broadcaster Edgar Lesgard and was originally played by Jonathan Adams in the stage production. But when the Rocky Horror Show found its way to the big screen, Jonathan Adams was cast as Dr. Scott, and the role, merely known as the narrator, evolved into the criminologist and went to veteran British actor Charles Gray, famous for his portrayal as the villain in the 1971 James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever. Believe it or not, during filming, Gray never met any of his fellow Rocky Horror cast members because all his scenes were filmed in a single day on a completely separate stage. The 1964 Outer Limits episode, The Forms of Things Unknown, shares undeniable, uncanny parallels with the plot of Rocky Horror. Both narratives involve two protagonists, Brad and Janet in Rocky Horror, and Cassia and Leonora in The Forms of Things Unknown, driving late at night through a relentless rainstorm. In both instances, their journey is abruptly interrupted when something happens, forcing them to abandon their car. Stranded, they trudge through the downpour until they stumble upon an isolated dwelling. Their immediate need to use a telephone. A creepy, unsettling servant answers the door, and noticing their drenched state, invites them inside. Soon after, the scientist of the house makes his grand entrance. Dr. Frank-n-Furter in Rocky Horror, and the enigmatic Mr. Hobart in The Forms of Things Unknown. The scientist then extends an invitation for the beleaguered visitors to stay the night before retreating back to his mysterious laboratory, leaving the protagonists to ponder the unsettling hospitality they've just received. Whether deliberate or not, it feels as though Rocky Horror took a page of inspiration from this classic Outer Limits episode, borrowing elements of its very blueprint for a descent into the bizarre. A blueprint whose inspiration traces back even further to the 1932 film The Old Dark House. Rocky Horror turned the strangers trapped in a creepy house trope on its head with glam rock and unbridled sexual liberation. Imagine trying to make Rocky Horror take place today. Car breaks down, Brad whips out his smartphone, calls for a tow, and the movie's over before it even begins. No creepy castle, no transvestite alien, no giving yourself over to absolute pleasure. Instead of a cult classic, we'd have an advertisement for roadside assistance. But in 1974, the year the film is set, That premise works perfectly. The absence of cell phones is crucial. However, pinpointing the exact month in 1974 is where the film breaks down. The criminologist explicitly states the events unfolded on a late November evening.
Left Denton that late November evening.
Yet, a key detail directly contradicts this. Brad and Janet are listening to Richard Nixon's resignation speech on the car radio, a monumental historical moment that occurred on August 8, 1974. Yes, this is a glaring inconsistency, but just how seriously are we really supposed to take the timeline of a movie about a transvestite alien from outer space? Ever wonder about the eerie castle from the film? It's not just a set piece, it's a real place. Today, it's known as Oakley Court, a swanky hotel overlooking the River Thames. Just a 10-minute drive from historic Windsor Castle in England. And for the ultimate fan experience, you might get lucky and stay in the very room where Riff Raff peered out his window, belting his solo in Over at the Frankenstein Place, the ultimate photo op. Beyond its Rocky Horror fame, this gothic dwelling has served as the backdrop for numerous Hammer horror films. As a guest, you'll quickly uncover some movie magic. When you pull up to the hotel, like Brad and Janet, you'll discover that the dramatic, iconic side of the castle, the one featured so prominently in the film, is actually the back of the building, facing the River Thames. The movie cleverly tricks you into thinking that the main entrance is on the opposite side. And don't bother searching for Frank-n-Furter's infamous laboratory. It is nowhere to be found. That was a temporary custom addition to the exterior just for Rocky Horror's filming. Janet's solo. In the velvet darkness of the blackest night, burning bright, there's a guiding star. No matter what or who you are, resonates far beyond a simple love song. Her poignant words can absolutely be seen as a metaphor for the era's preceding widespread women's, sexual, and LGBTQ+ liberation. In this light, the eccentric, uninhibited world within the castle, with its radical acceptance and celebration of difference, shines as a beacon of hope and freedom for those seeking acceptance in a restrictive world. Brad was set to have his own solo in Over at the Frankenstein Place.
I can see the flag fly, I can see the rain.
I can see the flag fly, I can see the rain, just the same. There has got to be something better here for you and me. Barry Bostwick even filmed the sequence, but it was ultimately cut from the final movie. But Brad fans, don't despair. You can still hear Brad's part to this day in live stage productions of the Rocky Horror Show. The flag Brad nearly serenaded still made its way into the film, displaying a lightning bolt. This very lightning bolt was one of the first logos for RKO Pictures, and eagle-eyed viewers can spot it throughout the film, emblazoned on every Transylvanian sleeve during the time warp, marking control levers in the castle, and even adorning Riff Raff and Magenta spacesuits. This pervasive reminder of RKO Pictures ties the castle's chaos directly to classic Hollywood. The character Riff Raff's name might be a subtle nod to the 1947 film noir Riff Raff, featuring Pat O'Brien. A fitting coincidence since Richard O'Brien, who plays Riff Raff, shares the same last name. Beyond this cinematic wink, the name itself implies his outsider status, clearly marking him as a mere servant rather than part of the Transylvanian elite. Over at the Frankenstein Place. Referring to the castle as the Frankenstein Place is one of the first clues that Rocky Horror Picture Show is at its essence a sexually liberated update of the 1931 monster movie classic Frankenstein. Part parody, part tribute. Both films feature a gothic castle and a mad scientist, Henry Frankenstein and Dr. Frank-n-Furter, driven to create life. Their respective creations, Frankenstein's monster and Rocky, are stitched together beings brought to life through scientific means. An isolated, unnatural laboratory, complete with strange equipment and a foreboding atmosphere, is central to both narratives. Both feature a hunchbacked assistant. Fritz assists Henry Frankenstein, and Riff Raff assists Dr. Frank-n-Furter, although Riff Raff's posture miraculously improves once he takes command of the castle at the end of the movie. At the start of Time Warp, Riff Raff's opening a coffin and revealing a skeleton is a tribute to the 1920 film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, when the doctor opened a cabinet to reveal the sleepwalker Cesare. Columbia's Time Warp tap dance is a lively echo of famous tap dancer Ann Miller, a star of 1938's You Can't Take It With You, a movie fittingly from, you guessed it, Columbia Pictures. Little Nell originated the role of Columbia both on stage and in the film. In the early 1970s, Nell sold clothes in London at Kensington Market at a stall next to Freddie Mercury's. Columbia's role in the story is the groupie. Appropriately enough, went on to play a groupie again in the 1982 film Pink Floyd The Wall. Presumably, to give the Transylvanians an otherworldly feel, there was a casting call for unusual-looking actors. At the height of 4 foot 1 inch, Sadia Corre secured a spot as a Transylvanian and later went on to play an Ewok in 1983's Return of the Jedi. At the height of 6 foot 6 inches, Stephen Calcutt secured a spot as a Transylvanian. Later, Stephen worked on all 3 of the original Star Wars films as a stand-in for Peter Mayhew playing Chewbacca and for David Prowse playing Darth Vader. Ishak Bucks was an Indian actor who portrayed one of the Transylvanians. You may also remember him as Omar in 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Christopher Biggins is an English actor who played a Transylvanian in the film, but decades later returned to Rocky Horror as the narrator in 2007 and 2010 UK touring company productions of the Rocky Horror Show. Rufus Collins, who played a Transylvanian, went on to play Charlie Humphreys in the 1983 vampire film The Hunger, alongside Rocky Horror veterans Susan Sarandon, our beloved Janet Weiss, and Cliff DeYoung. Brad Majors in the Rocky Horror sequel Shock Treatment. English actresses Annabelle Leventon and Gay Brown both played Transylvanians in 1974, 1 year before Rocky Horror went celluloid. These actresses, along with a third, formed the all-girl glam rock group Rock Bottom, which signed to RCA Records. Through Michael White, Rock Bottom landed a Sunday night concert gig at King Roads Theater when the Rocky Horror Show was dark. As a result, Annabelle and Gay were cast as Transylvanians in the movie. In 1976, Rock Bottom was written into an English television series called Rock Follies, but all the real members of the glam rock were recast. One of the roles went to Julie Covington, who originated the Rocky Horror Show role of Janet in the very first production of the Royal Court Theatre upstairs. Rocky Horror veterans Tim Curry and Nell Campbell also appeared in the television series. 2 Transylvanian actors had a history with Tim Curry even before Rocky Horror: Anthony Milner and Henry Wolfe. Both worked with Curry in Bertolt Brecht's Man is Man at the Royal Court Theatre in 1971. Henry Wolfe even pulled double duty in Rocky Horror, also appearing as one of the photographers in the opening wedding scene. The other wedding photographer was played by Perry Bedden, easily spotted as the Transylvanian in the blue hat. Bedden's connection to Rocky Horror extended well beyond the film. He went on to play Riff Raff himself in stage productions across London, Germany, and Australia. Kimmy Wong was not only a Transylvanian, she was Richard O'Brien's real-life wife from 1971 to 1979, the mother of Richard's son named Linus O'Brien, who has directed a documentary titled Strange Journey, the story of Rocky Horror. The Transylvanians collapse at the close of the Time War. There's an uncanny resemblance to a musical number in Bye Bye Birdie, where the entire cast famously tumbles to the ground. In early stage productions of the Rocky Horror Show, the song Sweet Transvestite was performed before Time War. However, in the movie and subsequent stage productions, this order was reversed so that the show builds up more dramatically to Dr. Frank-n-Furter's big reveal.
Do any of you guys know how to Madison?
Does anyone here know how to Madison? A call out to the vintage novelty line dance, later showcased in John Waters' 1988 Hairspray. The Madison is one of the many novelty dance songs that swept the late 50s and early 60s that Time Warp collectively parodied. When you knocked, he thought you were the Candyman. A loaded line revealing Riff Raff expected a drug dealer, assuming Brad's knock was a delivery.
Well, you got caught with a flat.
You got caught with a flat. Well, how about that? How does Frank know this?
But maybe the rain.
Maybe the rain isn't really to blame. Perhaps he was responsible all along. Perhaps this is Frank-n-Furter in disguise at the wedding, and he had his eye on Brad and Janet ever since. Frank-n-Furter's iconic proclamation, Sweet Transvestite, uses language of its time. Modern terminology typically favors crossdresser or gender nonconforming. While some crossdressers are also transgender, many are not. They simply find joy in donning clothing of the opposite sex, with no bearing on their gender identity. This is likely the case with Dr. Frank-n-Furter. while Frank-n-Furter, Riffraff, and Magenta hail from the planet transsexual. It's important to note that on Earth, the term transsexual refers to individuals who desire or have undergone medical transition to align their bodies with their gender identity. The galaxy of Transylvania, home to Frank-n-Furter, Riffraff, and Magenta, isn't just a name. It's a deliberate wink to the central Romanian region here on Earth. Thanks to Bram Stoker's Dracula, Transylvania has been inextricably linked with vampire lore for centuries.
If you want something visual that's not too abysmal, we could take in
an old Steve Reeves movie. Steve Reeves is a bodybuilder turned actor, famous in the 1950s for starring in movie roles that showed off his impressive physique. Notice Dr. Frank-n-Furter's lab coat has a pink triangle sewn on. Triangles were sewn onto prisoners in Nazi concentration camps to dehumanize the prisoners and identify the reason for their incarceration. Pink triangles pointing down were used for homosexuals. In the 1970s, people began to reclaim the pink triangle, reorienting it to point upwards as a symbol of gay pride. Some say that Frank is actually wearing a red triangle. Red triangles were also used in Nazi concentration camps for political prisoners. When Rocky first appears, covered head to toe in bandages, it's an unmistakable nod to the classic 1957 Hammer horror film, The Curse of Frankenstein. And the tank Rocky emerges from is the exact same tank used in the 1958 horror sequel, The Revenge of Frankenstein. The tank was painted red and repurposed in Bray Studios, where both these Frankenstein films and the Rocky Horror Picture Show were all filmed, while professional model Peter Hinwood embodied Rocky Horror on screen. The vocals for The Sword of Damocles and his Rose Tint My World solo actually belonged to Australian singer Trevor White.
The sword of Damocles is hanging over.
The Sword of Damocles is an ancient Greek tale in which Dionysus offered to let Damocles experience the good life for a day by seating him at a lavish banquet, but hung a sharp sword by a single strand of horsehair directly above his head. Damocles, terrified by the impending doom, could not enjoy the feast, realizing that immense power and luxury come with danger. The Greek tale turned into an idiom that means even if you have everything you ever wanted, there's an ever-present danger that could drop at any moment and ruin everything. The tunes The Sword of Damocles, along with Planet Schmanet Janet, are missing from the original 1975 soundtrack, which already clocks in at 45 minutes and 4 seconds. A tight squeeze for records of the time. It's believed these tunes were cut simply because there was not enough space. Magenta's declaration to Frank-n-Furter,
A triumph of your will.
Yes.
"Triumph of your will," isn't just a compliment, it's a chilling direct reference to the infamous 1935 German Nazi propaganda film, Triumph of the Will. Speaking of German, Tim Curry originally developed the role of Dr. Frank-n-Furter with a German accent to match the name. But director Jim Sharman suggested he try out a posh accent. So after overhearing a woman on a bus with an over-the-top British accent, Curry landed on Frank's iconic Queen of England-style voice. Frank-n-Furter's anthem,
In just 7 days.
I Can Make You a Man, is a direct and playful homage to the legendary American bodybuilder Charles Atlas.
A weakling when
The lyrics, a weakling weighing 98 pounds will get sand in his face when kicked to the ground, are lifted straight from Atlas's famous advertisements. Promising transformation through his dynamic tension method, this innovative mail-order fitness course, launched in the late 1920s, claimed to forge a new man without weights, making the line,
he thinks dynamic tension.
"He thinks dynamic tension must be hard work," a knowing wink to Atlas's enduring legacy. Believe it or not, I Can Make You a Man, its reprise, along with Eddie's Teddy, were missing from the very first run of the stage show at London's Royal Court Theatre upstairs. These fan favorites were only added to the show later, as it moved to other theaters in London before it ever became a film. Meatloaf, real name Marvin Lee Aday, pulled double duty as both Eddie and Dr. Scott in the 1974 stage production of the Rocky Horror Show at the Roxy Theater, a clever casting choice that played on the character characters' familial resemblance as nephew and uncle. While Meatloaf reprised his role as Eddie for the film, Jonathan Adams took on the role of Dr. Scott. Shortly after Meatloaf's Rocky Horror stint, his career exploded with his 1977 album Bat Out of Hell, selling over 43 million copies, a 1984 Grammy for I Do Anything for Love, and acting the role of Robert Bob Paulson in 1999's Fight Club. Peggy Ledger, an Irish actress, holds the distinction of being the only Transylvanian with a speaking role in the film. During the song Papa Tootie Bless My Soul, she exclaims, "Lovely party." Interestingly, this wasn't her only line in the film. You can also hear her earlier as a wedding guest at the beginning of the film, where she tearfully says,
"Always cry at weddings."
Eddie's prominent headscar is a grim testament to Frank-n-Furter's devious actions as a mad scientist. The doctor literally harvested half of Eddie's brain to bring his creation Rocky to life. Frank-n-Furter later chillingly ponders,
Do you think I made a mistake?
"Do you think it was a mistake, splitting his brain between the two of them?" A line that confirms the horrific origin of the wound. Eddie's love and hate hand tattoos directly reference the 1955 thriller The Night of the Hunter, in which Robert Mitchum played a serial killer disguised as a pious preacher. Dr. Frank-n-Furter also has a noteworthy tattoo on his thigh, which reads 4711, the name of a classic German cologne known for its citrusy, unisex scent. By wearing a fragrance for both men and women, the ink serves as a permanent symbol of Frank's androgyny. In the original Rocky Horror Show stage production, Brad Majors sings a ballad once in a while,
For a heart to turn to stone.
reflecting on the evening's indiscretions. The scene was filmed for the movie, but it ultimately hit the cutting room floor. Barry Bostwick himself has gone on record to say that the film's pacing is stronger without it. Janet's tearing of her garment to tend to Rocky's wounds
Here, I'll dress your wounds.
mirrors a pivotal moment in the 1932 movie Tarzan the Ape, where Maureen O'Sullivan's Jane tears her own garment to create bandages for an injured Tarzan. In this scene, Columbia wears Mickey Mouse ears, identical to the ones the original Mouseketeers wore in the Mickey Mouse Club from 1955 to 59. They symbolize her lost innocence in the very un-Disney, hedonistic environment of Frank's castle. As Dr. Scott is dramatically pulled by an electromagnet toward the laboratory, his uncontrolled spin through the castle offers a blink and you'll miss it peek into Columbia and Magenta's deep love for cinema. Columbia is engrossed in Movie Life magazine, Magenta in Movie Mirror magazine, and the soundtrack for the utterly bonkers 1970 cult classic Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, co-written by the film critic Roger Ebert, is at hand. Before Rocky's birthday feast descends into chaos, a chilling hint emerges. The criminologist's book is open to Leonardo da Vinci's iconic The Last Supper, a stark and ominous foreshadowing of the betrayal and impending doom about to unfold, when Magenta bangs her gong to announce, it's a clever nod to the British entertainment conglomerate, the Rank Organization, whose movies famously began with the iconic image of a gong being struck. Frank-n-Furter's cutting remark,
Or should I say, Dr. Fun Scott?
is a chilling accusation, branding Dr. Scott as a Nazi scientist. This insinuation serves to unsettle Dr. Scott, whom Frank views as a threat due to his role with the Bureau of Investigation of UFOs, an organization Frank assumes is actively investigating him. In a moment laden with judgment, the criminologist looks upon Whistler's mother, James McNeill Whistler's 1871 American masterpiece, depicting his own mother, which has become an iconic symbol of motherhood, while Dr. Scott sings,
All he wanted was rock and roll porn.
all he wanted was rock and roll porn and a motorbike. The magazine the criminologist shows us is the April 1974 issue of Tonight Magazine, a Parliament publication. Unbeknownst to Frank-n-Furter's dinner guests, Eddie's dead body is hidden in the dinner table, a ghoulish nod to Alfred Hitchcock's 1948 suspense film, Rope, in which a similar dinner party unfolds with the victim's corpse hidden inside the serving table. The name Dr. Frank-n-Furter is a play on words, combining Frankfurter, a type of sausage, like a hot dog, and Frankenstein, likely the inspiration for the following lyrics. You're a hot dog, but you better not try to hurt her. Frank-n-Furter, the de-Medusa lever is a direct nod to the Greek mythological figure Medusa, the monstrous woman whose serpentine hair turned all who gazed upon her to stone. The de-Medusa concept takes center stage in CRL Group's 1985 video game, The Rocky Horror Show. Players step into the shoes of either Brad or Janet, navigating Dr. Frank-n-Furter's chaotic castle in a desperate hunt for the scattered pieces of the Medusa machine. Their mission? To de-Medusa their partner and make their escape. The game was remade in 1999 as Rocky Interactive Horror Show for Microsoft Windows by Online Entertainment. Michelangelo's masterpiece, The Creation of Adam, found not just on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, but also in the depths of Frank's pool, drawing a direct parallel between Dr. Frank-n-Furter's creation of Rocky and God's creation of Adam. Bearing the ominous SS Titanic, Frank's life preserver serves as a grim foreshadowing of his fate of being left for dead in the water, an echo of the ship's tragic sinking in the North Atlantic in April 1912. Janet blurts out, God bless Lily St. Cyr, thanking the famous burlesque dancer and stripper of the 1940s and 1950s. That tower is a tribute to RKO Radio Pictures, the influential studio active from 1930 to 1957. RKO was the powerhouse behind cinematic giants such as the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers musicals, Citizen Kane, and King Kong. Riff Raff and Magenta's costume change symbolizes a pivotal shift in the story's direction. No longer mere servants, their sleek spacesuits signal their true intent, seizing control of the castle and orchestrating a return to their home planet of transsexual. Magenta's distinctive coif is a tribute to the iconic hairstyle of 1935's The Bride of Frankenstein, the first sequel to the very film that inspired the Rocky Horror Show. A statue of Richard O'Brien's Riff Raff in his signature spacesuit stands proudly in Hamilton, New Zealand. The city was instrumental in shaping O'Brien's creative vision, being the place where he lived as a teenager and took in the very sci-fi and monster films that would define Rocky Horror. Rocky's struggle as he carries Frank-n-Furter up the tower while under attack directly mirrors the iconic climax of King Kong, where the giant ape famously scales the Empire State Building with Fay Wray. The original finale of the Rocky Horror Picture Show was a real mood killer. Producer Lou Adler saw the somber superheroes and science fiction double feature reprise left early audiences feeling totally bummed. So he made a bold move. For US audiences, he slashed superheroes. No Brad, no Janet, just the criminologists, and swapped the depressing science fiction double feature reprise for a final celebratory blast of the Time Warp over the credits. This change sent moviegoers home on a high. This created two versions, a feel-good US ending and a more somber UK ending. The film's longevity has led to an explosion of different cuts. Some prints had the full superhero song, others just a snippet. The end credits were a free-for-all, featuring the Time Warp, science fiction double feature reprise, or a groovy, vocals-free instrumental version of the Time Warp, known as the Transylvanian Jam. In 2005, the Rocky Horror Picture Show earned a spot on the Library of Congress National Film Registry, cementing its legacy as a culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant work of art. The film's genius lies not just in its individual references, but in how it stitches them together into a chaotic, campy, and ultimately liberating narrative that celebrates all things B-movie: creativity, defiance, and pure, unadulterated fun.
Fiction.
What did I miss? What memories do you have of seeing Rocky Horror? Let me know in the comments. If you like this film, then you will love these great videos, including the rise and fall of midnight movies. Click on one now.